We stand and pledge allegiance to the flag.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
On behalf of the Danbury school system and on behalf of our superintendent and all of our board members, we would like to welcome our city council members, the city council president, and all the members for coming out for this budget workshop. And that's what it is, a budget workshop. So I'm going to ask our vice chair to just welcome our guests here.
Mr. Philip Byrne, Mr. Warren Levy, Mr. Jack Knapp, Mr. Paul Rotello, Mr. Don Taylor, Mr. Cavo, Ben Shanizi, Fred Visconti, Andrew Wetmore, Colleen Stanley, and Mary Knight as well.
Now I'm going to turn this portion of the budget process over to our superintendent, Dr. Pascal.
Thank you, and good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming. If you all want to come up a little bit, it's okay. You guys are used to school, huh? I'm with you back there. Not to worry. Way back. What we have tonight,
Yeah, we're not getting a lot of sound.
thanks, man. Maybe they're not on. Testing, 1, 2, 3. The broken speaker is not the budget then. The way we have it organized tonight, I have a presentation here. This is a draft for our board. They still will have to go through it, and we'll explain how we put it together and the elements of it. There's a series in the back of meetings, and there's one, in fact, this week of the budget committee right after this that we'll be meeting, and then there's some other meetings that I'll share with you. But I wanted Mr. Ginelli to do the introduction. He's the chairman of the subcommittee that's going through this, and then turn it over to me and myself and Ed Aaron. Ed, he's Elio Longo right there. He's Elio Boston Air. But Elio's in Norwalk, but Ed's been with us since about October. And a great addition. And Dr. Glass, who just went to get something, will do the other part of the budget presentation.
Thank you very much for being here. I think these meetings are very important because it gives us an opportunity to allow us to demonstrate to you our thought process in this particular draft. As Dr. Pasquarello said, it's only a proposal draft. The Finance Committee, which I'm sure, as well as the Board of Ed members, still have to go through this in the next couple of weeks before we send it for a final vote. The format you'll see is a little bit different than what we've had in the previous years. I think it's an excellent format. It elaborates certain things in our thinking cycle. Most importantly, it's like you'll see on some of these pages here, and I have references to mine, are not so much the dollars that impact us previously in terms of the economic conditions that we're living through, but it's the impact itself on the effect or quality of education that we're able to or not able to sustain. If the economy wasn't bad enough, other factors that are hindering, or challenges, I should say, that are hindering us are the mobility rate that we have in Danbury, which is, you'll see in the packet here, is 39%, which is the ins and outs of students either transferring from schools or people transferring in and out of the district. The poverty level of our students is going up to 50% of a population of 10,500 plus or minus. That's a huge, huge number. These all have negative incomes. We're probably one of the only cities in the state of Connecticut that has an enrollment increase. I think many of the other cities and districts in the state are, their challenge is what are they going to do with the existing schools that are empty because of a decline. As much as Danbury, we the residents of Danbury like to celebrate our diversity, it also creates certain challenges for us because we have a population probably ranging about 45% range that are a minority population being non-white. It also creates difficulties for us because we have 40+ languages spoken within the district. All of these factors impact the ability that a teacher has to, or the challenges, I want to say, that a teacher has to overcome the educational process. So what we'd like to do is to have the administration go through and explain some of their, obviously, to explain the thought process here, but more importantly, to have you have an understanding as to what they are particularly dealing with, because it affects every one of us in this particular city. Our kids, our grandchildren, and our future generation. So with that being said, I'll pass it back to Dr. Pasquarella. And once again, I thank you for attending, and it's great to see you all again. Thank you.
I'm sure the reason why you're all here is that you read the papers, which kind of indicated where we were going. And as I said, this budget is a development budget, and we do have a number of things that would impact what you did read. And hopefully tonight you'll walk away understanding how we came about the number that we did. Go ahead, Bill, if you want to just move to the next page. The budget development considerations, it's been, we've talked about them in the past, and we've tried to prioritize. So we're really trying to maintain the core levels of educational program that we have. And you'll see what that core represents. But we tried to keep the focus on those things as we kept our eyes on the prize and tried to move the enterprise forward. There are legal and contractual requirements. We have class size requirements. They are goals, but we set them in terms when we look at our teaching and learning program, we try to keep those class sizes at the levels that we have contractually agreed with teachers that we set as a goal. There are also legal requirements. We have special education students, we have bilingual students, we have handicapped students that we have to meet their IEPs. We have contracts. IEP is a contract with the parent to deliver a service. Those services are not just services that are delivered in a classroom. They could be delivered outside the classroom with OT, PT, and other things. Those are not optional. And that's reviewed on a student every 3 years on the anniversary when they were placed into special education. Danbury, I'm very proud to say, and it's something started way before I got here, they really maintain many of our students inside our district. Our outplacement is very low, comparatively speaking, with many of the other schools. ACE helps us at the secondary level that we have. Our program at the middle school, Endeavor program, helps us with our middle school programming. So we're able to keep our own within the district, and which helps us service the youngsters, and we think keep them in a neighborhood school and overall have a better experience. But it keeps our out placements, which are very expensive, to a minimum. We evaluate every open positions. For example, when you look at some of the impact that Dr. Glass is going to talk to you about, after we developed the budget last year, we had someone unexpectedly leave with a new job. We evaluated that position and we didn't put it back in the budget. So we've done that. We keep doing that whenever something opens. We look for opportunities to maybe condense and deliver the service better if we can. If so, we make that recommendation. We're still doing that. Consider the need identified by boards, parents, and others. Is there something wrong with that thing? You won't show? Well, everybody has a hand up, right? So I don't have to worry about that. But as we sit at some of the meetings, there are parents and their board members and the community that give us ideas, and we do take them seriously. We maintain them, and we look at them to see if from their perspective, does it make sense? If so, then we try to see if we can incorporate those ideas. And some of them are pretty good. We've reallocated existing staff and resources. Even though we may cut back, last year we cut back positions, but you know, with our, as Dick mentioned, we're growing. We're growing about 7 to 10 teachers a year, just in the north. When you add students at the elementary level, there's fine applied arts, there's fine arts that have to go with it, the music and the rest of the program, so it impacts those as well. Continue to aggressively pursue cost containing and saving measures. One of the things that Ed has brought on to us has been really, Elliot was aggressive, Ed is also on top of it. He has he's retired business manager and has been working with companies and working with and soliciting different bidding form avenues and venues. He's working with different constituents to actually bring down the costs, and he'll talk a little bit about that. Grant. This is probably where we could do better. We have some grants that are entitlement grants. We get those. We do have some competitive grants. We're fortunate to receive some money for the secondary programming through Nellie Mae. That's really helped us with professional development. Many of the grants we get nowadays generally they don't pay for individual. It pays for training and maybe supplies. Even supplies they've cut back. It's mainly training, paying for subs, and sometimes it's coordinated to make sure that the budgets are handled properly. At one time we had a grants person, the district did away with it. We tried to bring it back, it just, you know, didn't work as well. So, but that's an area we are getting, our goal this year is to bring in about $400,000, and we've been able to do that and a little bit more. Given the education responsibility to all the children and their families, the collective challenge, sensitive to the pressures caused by the current economic climate, and we are very sensitive to that. We hear that all the time in terms of the need. I mean, when we have one school, free reduced lunches at 70%. Our average, as Bill said, is at 50%. Just when I started, this is my 6th year, when I started, it was 32% was the average. The most we had, the highest number was about 42%. So, you know, that's all moving up. And one thing in the research is pretty evident is, you know, when you have kids that have low socioeconomic status where economically they're disadvantaged, that impacts on their learning more so than any other factor. And that's growing for us. You want to turn that? Here it is right here. The 46 is the average. Phil, is there one more? Yep. Yeah, the percent of students who now live below the poverty level is at 50%. Okay, keep going. The mobility rate. This is still prevalent for us. One of the reasons why, you know, schools try to be flexible because families and neighborhoods are different, but what we found in Danbury was that if we were too flexible, we had students that were moving around. They'd be exposed to different materials in different ways, and sometimes they had gaps in their learning because our mobility was not only out of the district, but it was within the district. We opened up this year thinking we were going to have more students at South Street. It turned out Moore Street wound up getting 70 more kids because many of those parents moved from that neighborhood to the other neighborhood. Now, if those kids went through a curriculum that was different than Moore Street, they would have, you know, not a lot of gaps, but they'd have gaps in learning. So we've had to try to do something which we don't like to say standardize, so that we would at least be able to know that there's what program is being taught. And we also have pacing charts. So if a kid moves in the middle of the year or sometime during the year, they're within a few days or sometimes in the same unit, so they're exposed to the same material. This really creates a real challenge for us in terms of student mobility. Go ahead, Bill. key budget items, the board that approved budgets past years. We have that net current expenditures, our enrollment. Where are those, Bill?
Yeah, I'll take that.
You have that? Okay.
The rest of the stuff is not up there, but it's in your packet. So if you go to page 9, it's the number on the right. Debbie number. I can read my handwriting.
This is page 9 here.
Yeah, it says on the right.
Okay.
I'm just telling you, it's on the right. Page 9 is an overview of 2004 to 2011-12, just looking at what the proposed budget was and what the adopted budget was from the city, and the increases, the enrollments. NCEP is net current expenditures. That's a figure that the state gives to us. We file at the end of the year, June EDO1, which is financial report. They take all that information, and I'll just read you from the statutes. Net current expenditure per pupil, which has been a primary measure of per pupil spending in Connecticut for more than 30 decades. Net current expenditures are calculated and defined in Connecticut General Statutes 10-261A3. NCE includes all current public elementary and secondary expenditures from all sources, excluding reimbursable regular education transportation, tuition revenue, capital expenditure for land, building equipment, and debt service. The statute provides for the inclusion of, in the NCE, the principal portion of debt service for eligible items, for maintenance items, and so forth. So that's what the, and then we gave a rank by the state. This, we don't, out of 169 towns, you can see what the ranking is of Danbury, and on the right-hand side is the state net current expenditure versus what our net current expenditure is. The next page, if you look at page 10, just gives you a graph showing you that the continuation of moving up, but then a steady, for 3 years, a non-growth, but a steady movement towards non-growth. The next page, page 11, gives you the enrollment, just showing you where the enrollment is continuing, even though the net current expenditures are staying level. On page 12 is just an overview of the budget, which we'll go into later. Listed in different ways. The maintenance budget, which is 5.03%. The enrollment increase in state mandates is 0.61%, gives you a total of 5.64%. We have value added, and we'll go over what those are. 0.68 gives you a proposed budget increase of 6.32. We have some assumptions that we're trying to implement. If we do all of them, we can reduce our budget to 4.99. We'll go over those items later. On page 13, a little different way of thinking is the efficiency in dollars of Danbury school system. We have the state average, as you can see, net current expenditures going up. The DRG, which we're in H, is still going up, all the average of all those towns, and where Danbury is. The next page, on page 14, just gives you a running, I'm sorry.
This in net current expenditures per pupil.
Correct.
Thank you.
Yes, I should have.
No, I
Yes.
just.
Just the way of doing efficient of how net current expenditure, where the state is moving up, the DERG is moving up, and we're just leveling off. The next page just shows you all the net current expenditures per pupil by year, by Danbury, by DRG, which is H, and by the state. And the first page was just the graph of that. The next page, page 15, is the percentage of net current expenditures. If the net current expenditure for the state is 100%, what's the efficiency of the DRGH and Danbury? So if you go to the next page, it'll show you that the state is at 100%, and we're how far below the state we are. Shows you that we started in 0405 at 94%, we're at 85%. And the DRG, the average for all those towns, is at 94% in 2010-11. We don't have 11-12 yet. We just submitted that
and the auditors go through that. The auditors have to submit their, if they agree or disagree with our findings, they submit that to the state by December 30th, and hopefully by the end of the year, of this fiscal year, we'll have that data. That's how it works. It takes us, by statute, we have to finish it and give it to the auditors so they can do their auditing of our books. Remember, you probably realize it, that the auditors do the town and the board, and we pay a portion of that auditing fee. Next is the impact, and I'll put that over to Dr. Glass.
Thank you, Ed. Just want two quick points of clarification. Sometimes educators use educational jargon, DRG or the DIRG,
Oh, I'm
as we
sorry.
call it. No, it's okay. The state looked at, we have the biggest achievement gap in the United States. Part of the main driver of that is that we have the most affluent communities in the country, many of them, and some of the poorest communities in the country. Talking to Steve Adamowski, the former superintendent from Hartford, he said we had the dubious distinction of being the poorest city in the United States. Hartford does. So the state looked at this and said, we need to break you up, kind of apples to apples, oranges to oranges. So the DRG, district reference groups, go from A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, us, and I. A is the Darians and the Avons and the Simsburys, etc. And I is represented by the Bridgeports, New Havens, and Hartfords. We're second from the bottom. So as I think Mr. Jelly mentioned, and Sal, our poverty level is increasing. At some point in time, we may in fact actually end up in DRGI, the poorest of the communities in terms of student population. The other thing is I'd just like to point you, could you please turn your package back to page 9 just for a moment? Page 9.
My page.
When you look at this, Board of Education approved budget past years, I'd like to call your attention to the left side. If you scroll down a couple, you get to the 2006-2007 school year. Make a note there, just kind of a hash mark, and then go down to 2010-11. If you look at that bracket, those are the years of the newest Connecticut Mastery Test. They come in different generations. If you run your finger all the way, starting on 2006-2007 to the right, to the second last column where it says rank out of 169, we were 102 out of 169. 1 is the most affluent, the highest budget, and 169 is the lowest. If you run your finger down to 2010-11, we go on to 140 out of 169 school systems. The reason, and you can see the next number is 149. I'm sorry, 149. I apologize. So from 102 down to 149. The reason that that's particularly significant, as Sal said, the greatest predictor of low student achievement is the degree of poverty that students live within. Given the fact that we have dropped precipitously and our poverty level has grown dramatically, you would predict as an educational researcher or even as a layperson that our student achievement should go down. Instead, when you compare our 2006/7 test scores, the first year of that generation of the Connecticut Mastery Test, to the 2010-11, there are 60 areas in which we're tested. We grew in all 60 areas. So we're going diametrically opposed to where we should be going. I think it helps make the point that Ed was making earlier, that we're doing everything we can to be as efficient and as effective in spite of a very harsh economy. Going back to the slide that's on the screen, the board made a decision a number of years ago, and I'd just like to point out there are two graphics. The one is top left, the small target, and then we have the 3 concentric circles over here. The idea was that as we've been cutting back and becoming leaner and meaner in a sense, we do want to make reference to the fact that you'll notice the white outer and the black, those are programs that have already been cut. We've gone from 52 administrators to 34. We've gone, when our early reading success grant went away, we eliminated 17 reading positions. So we've been cutting and cutting steadily. Right now, we're down to those 3 remaining concentric circles. Our argument here with the red circle is that this is mission critical. If you do not have reading, writing, and math, our argument is you really don't have a school system. We're required by law to have that, obviously, but I mean, just common sense, the old 3 R's. In the absence of the 3 R's, really not school, it's something else. So the board said, at all costs, we want to maintain that. We might not maintain it at the same level. And as I mentioned, we cut 17 reading specialists out of this, and we cut math specialists as well. But that becomes the heart of the school system that we really want to hold on to. The second concentric circle, our top priority, simply says we want to remain legal at all costs. We don't want to go to prison. It's not a good thing. None of us are good in orange. Jumpsuits aren't our style. So we have many, we reference one up here, 1016B. State law says every local educational agency, LEA, must have a planned, systematic, and ongoing program of instruction in the 11 mandated areas. If you fail to do that, you're out of compliance. There's a corrective action called 104B, where the state comes in, reviews you, and then there's a legal mandate to reinstate those 1016B areas. So, and there's all the special ed laws that come with this, and so on and so forth. So our second top priority is to stay legal. And the last year was to say, let's try and keep, we've lost our important programs and we've lost our nice-to-have programs. We're looking at things that the board, that the city government, that the parents, that the community at large are saying, these are really important. A good example of that, freshman sports. We had a lot of people coming out saying, this is really important to our community to maintain that. We've recently had a group called the Gather Group, Gifted and Talented Have Equal Rights. Parents were coming out saying, our kids shouldn't be left behind either. So as we attend to the needs of the community and after the board does its due diligence and we come up with this is what we think we really need to hold on to, that becomes the third concentric circle. And that's how our budget cutting decisions are made. Sorry, I'm going to go to the next page in your handout, page 18. I'm not going to go through these few pages, there are 3 of them in detail. I'm just going to kind of give you the highlights. We said that if we had to reduce from last school year for this school year, we had to cut things. Since we've already cut from those concentric circles on the graph up on the screen, that we're going to have to continue to reduce programming. It's either get rid of staff or get rid of programs. It's the only way you can really save money. In conjunction with having very aggressive contract negotiations. Ed has already done a wonderful job with Cigna and Anthem, and that we're constantly working to get that number lower. But once you get to the lowest number you can get to, then there's nothing else that you can negotiate. And all the contracts, the teachers took a 0, administrators took a 0, the cabinet, I think we've been frozen 2 out of the past 3 years. Everybody's come in at 0. Once you do that, then what's left, you cut programs and typically you cut staff. We've tried at all costs to keep classroom teachers. When you look at the first area of cut or reduction or elimination, it says elimination of full-day kindergarten program. We had many people come forward and say, please don't do that. That is one of those kind of high priority issues for us as parents, as teachers, etc. So we left, you should put a no in that box. We left that intact. We did not eliminate those 11 full-day.
Bill, let me explain. We don't have universal full-day kindergarten. We have, every school has at least one section of full-day kindergarten. So just to be clear about that.
And picking up on what Sal said, ironically, this was the year that our original plan was to have universal full-day kindergarten. And listening to the governor and a lot of the folks across the country, they're trying to have universal pre-kindergarten. We don't have any pre-kindergarten other than a few readiness programs, 3 of them to be exact, and we support Head Start. We were trying to move to universal where every child had a full day of kindergarten. Instead of achieving that, we actually had a chopping block for a few remaining kindergarten programs. So that remained intact. The next box where it says cut textbook budget from $250,000 to $50,000. This sounds like an egregious thing to do. The reason we even looked at it is once you get beyond our fixed costs, we only have 2% and change. Less than 3% is discretionary. that we can move around. So textbooks become, they're part of the discretion. You have to fund it at $250,000. Is it in the law? No. $250,000 for a district our size is considered to be meager to begin with. But we knew that we could cut that if we had to. The number, please correct your paper, it says 250,000 to 50,000. It should be 250,000 down to 120,000. We did make a substantial cut in our textbook budget, but we were able to save $120,000 worth of it. Next box down, I'm not going to spend much time because you have the idea. We said we're going to eliminate technology education. That's the old industrial arts at the middle school level. It's become much more high-tech. And we're going to eliminate French at the middle school level. In fact, we did eliminate technology education. 1016B says you must have it, but it doesn't say you have to have it at the middle school level. So we do have a robust program at the high school, but it's gone, maybe permanently, we don't know, at the middle school. Instead of eliminating French, we had folks come forward and say we'd like to give our kids in an ever flattening world, more of a global economy now than ever. Kids should speak 2 languages, 3 or even 4 languages. In many other countries, they do speak at least 2 or 3. So we left French, but we cut family and consumer science, which would be the old home economics. That's been updated. It deals with family care, child care, financial wherewithal, how to run a household, etc. But we did not have the means to continue to offer that, so we eliminated that. It is at the high school. The last box, elimination of 3 teaching positions at the high school in special education and elective areas. We did do that. It has resulted in some disproportionately large study halls. We've had parents, as recently as today, I had a parent call me saying, I don't like my son to go to school. The first thing he does is have a study hall. It's because we don't have enough courses to go around to fit 3,000 students, so we have to put some youngsters into study hall. This is getting back to that page 9, going from roughly 102 down to 149, just 20 from the bottom. It's starting to feel the impact now. Page 19, elimination of 2 guidance counselors at the middle school level. We did not do this. We did not predict that Mrs. Transillo was going to come on the board as a former middle school guidance counselor, but now in hindsight, we're really glad we didn't do that. Unfortunately, we did, many of you remember Sue DeVassar. She left the district at another position in another community, and so we reduced that position by 50%. We now have a nurse who also functions part-time, Mr. Perkins, functions part-time in that role. Excuse me. Getting down to that large box, it's unheard of for a school system our size to function with just 2 executive staff members. In Connecticut, executive staff is the name that they use, jargon again. Assistant superintendent, associate superintendent, deputy superintendent, superintendent. Anybody with that, any of those titles is executive staff. We had 3 assistant superintendents at one point in time, about 20, 25 years ago in Danbury. We were down to 2. When I first came, I came as assistant superintendent with Bob Deluski. When Bob retired, we eliminated that position. I picked up the bulk of his responsibility. Not trying to look like a martyr, but I said to the board, because of the tough economic times, the right thing to do is for me to assume those and ask the board respectfully, I don't want a raise or a change in any way, no additional compensation, because we're trying to save money on that. So my job got bigger. Shawana's in as our director of adult ed, and there's a grant that pays a big chunk of her salary, so we're able to offset the other part of Bob's program through that. We did eliminate the curriculum administrator for fine and applied arts. By the time that job was eliminated, that person was responsible for 7 different departments. Those of you might remember people like Joel Levitt, Eddie Valentuconis, so on and so forth. Andrew, you may have had them. We had 7 different, the business department was under here, technology, education, consumer, and family consumer science, the art department, the music department, etc. The leader of those departments was eliminated. So we're now dealing with a few teacher leaders who they teach full-time. We give them $1,000 a year stipend to help provide a little bit of leadership. We were going to eliminate the administrator for the Reach and Endeavor programs. We chose not to do that. We really thought we had, given the nature of those youngsters, it was good to have a full-time person there. We said we would not fill the following administrative position. When Sue Rice retired 2 years ago, we did not fill that position. Instead, we bring her back for 10 hours a week. There have been implications in us doing this. At a later point in time, the board will be hearing about an update on technology, and we've been working with David St. Hilaire and Mayor Boughton on concerns with tech. We have increasingly dropped behind, and some of our computers now are 8 years old and older. And literally on a daily basis, one or two of those will just fall apart. There's no warranty, there's no parts to replace those, and there's no ability to replace them, so we just take them out of the labs and leave a gap in where it used to be. We also had our Director of Special Services, Joyce Emmett, retired. We brought her back at 70% of her time because it's a shortage area. The state allows you to do that. So we cut 30% of the job, and it does impact. We have for 30% less time. The athletic director was at 225. He was cut back to 206 days, 6 days a year. Did not fill the position of guidance department head. That was a full-time position. We now pay two of our guidance counselors a sidebar stipend to pick up a little bit of the leadership there. We were supposed to get a technology systems analyst position. If you think about an inverted pyramid, 10 years ago, we were here with technology and it's been steadily growing because, as you all know, we're moving more and more to a digital world. So we now have well over 5,000 devices. And to help navigate that, navigate our, what they call a server farm, it's all the big file servers that send out all the information to the individual laptops and wireless devices. We needed somebody to help manage that very technological environment. We bit the bullet and said we can't at this point in time, but that is definitely impacting our ability to make sure we maintain a viable system. And the same thing goes for the remaining positions down there with the psychologist, the parapro, and the secretaries. I'm not suggesting that the psychologist is more important than a parapro or a secretary, but I do want to point out, when you saw that slide, we are now at 50%, actually it's 50.08% poverty in Danbury. That's a staggering number when you look at it in a 3-year gap from 32, 34% poverty up to 50% in just 3 years. What comes with that poverty are huge amounts of societal issues. For the past 2 days, I and members of the cabinet have dealt with a family in crisis, kids who are in crisis, and that has driven part of the school in crisis. We're working with DCF, we're working with many of the social service agencies in the community. That is dramatically escalating, and we can pretty much attribute that to the increase in poverty. So parents aren't working, they can't afford to. We have one youngster for 2 weeks in a row who's come to school in the same clothes, and that was reported to central office when we started looking into that. The issue behind that, the family just is too poor right now. Neither parent's working, so they just can't afford to do what they have to do. And that causes psychological problems. Kids start to shut down, and instead of adding more psychological services, because of the budget and our desire at all costs to keep teachers in the classroom, which we all agree, so we're cutting around the periphery. Professional development, we were at $130,000. There are grants that come in. One of our board members has asked for additional information on this. There are some grants that we've gone out and gotten. The Ellie Mae grants $250,000 a year for the high school, and moving forward with that. Embedded in many grants is a requirement that you must train your teachers. You must train your teachers in new pedagogies, or they're not going to be able to implement the new strategies. Title I, our largest entitlement, it requires a 10% set aside for professional development. So we're using those monies to try and offset this. But even with that, $130,000 was considered to be low. Mr. Martino, our new assistant finance director, came from a very tiny school system, no offense. And what was your budget for PD there?
85,000?
Okay, and how many kids were in the district?
Around 1,000.
1,000?
1,000.
Okay, so 1,000 versus 10,500. You can see if you do the metrics. I'm not suggesting you to multiply it times 10. We should be around 300, 400, or 500,000. We cut it back to 34. This is part of that 2% and change discretionary. We cut it because we could. Not saying we're staying stagnant. We're saying it is having an impact on us, our ability to get smarter. And the last page, I just want to quickly skim over. Those of us who have been here for a while knew that historically Danbury, kindergarten, first and second grade, we had 20 students per class as our target, and grades 3, 4, and 5 was 25. We now staff at a different level. Kindergarten, first grade has moved up to 22. and grades 2 through 5 is down to 25. If you've ever been an elementary teacher or you know elementary teachers, it's a brutally hard position. Coming as a former middle and high school teacher, I can easily say that the elementary teacher's job is far harder than my job when I was teaching at the high school level. It's just a tough job. When people say, what's the big deal? Put 2 more kids in there. If you have children, and if you have 3 kids, and we'll give you 2 more right now, what's the difference? Big difference. Lastly, I want to make sure we're always transparent. We're not saying in every elementary K in one classroom there are 22 kids. In some you'll see 18 and 19. In some you'll see 23 and 24. That's our target, and because of the enrollment in that particular neighborhood, the catchment area of that school, it could be a little bit higher, it could be a little bit lower. Mr. Cowell last night ran a meeting with us about 2020, the space and the enrollment issues, and we shared this, that not every classroom can be a cookie cutter with 25 kids here, or 22. So you'll see variations, but that's our overall push. And lastly, at the bottom, as I mentioned this before, with bargaining groups, we've been very aggressive with this. I have to tell you, as a senior official in the school system, it's the right thing to do in a pernicious financial climate. It's the wrong thing to do for morale. When you turn around to somebody and say, congratulations, you're not going to get a raise this year. We were successful, we negotiated 0, you don't get a pay raise. There's success, but there's also a lot of liability in that because morale starts to plummet. These are all adults that have families as well that they have to maintain. So it does have a direct impact. Everybody is out there doing. So to the credit of the unions, they came forward and said, okay, we're trying to do our part as well. The reason I'm trying to illuminate this a little bit, you can only do this just so often before something will go to arbitration. The arbitrator will say, oh, these people have already taken 0s. You have to realize that they have families and personal lives that they have to attend to as well. So our point with all this, we're down to 149. We have massive challenges ahead of us, and we've tried to bite the bullet and really do a service to the community at large. And we think we have, as reflected in the impact statements.
Can I ask just a superintendent question just for a minute? On page 9, which is kind of where I'm stuck. Within 6 years, we have dropped 50 rankings in the state of Connecticut, which is almost 1/3 down. We break the state into 3 sections. Have you, or are you able, it's what I used to have to do, and I will take the time before our next meeting if necessary. Has Stanford done that? Has anybody else in our DERS gone through that kind of drop? I mean, if the economy is the economy, and if it is a perception that things are terrible, then why, is it just terrible in Danbury, or is it terrible in Stanford, and in, who else is it, New Britain, and so on? No.
Norwalk and...
Norwalk, you're right, I mean, other
Norwich.
Fairfield, can you do that?
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
I just would like to see, did
As
Stanford
you
go
can say, well,
from
the
this
average
to?
of the DERS is still higher than the average for Danbury.
No, I saw that. I absolutely see that, but it's very impacting. Having done arbitrations, I never presented to an arbitrator about Danbury any kind of diminishment of this nature. So it's the first time I've seen it. Sorry. Thank you.
We're moving now back to Dr. Pasquarello.
If you go to page 21, the preliminary budget cost drivers gives you an analysis of the total increase, but we'll go over that in the next pages. As you can see, we'll give you all the cost increases of 6.32%, $7.2 million. If you go to the next page, it breaks it down. The first one is the maintenance budget. Educational jobs funding. We received, Danbury received a grant for 2 years in a row. That grant is completed this year. We're on page 22 then. That grant is finished, so we have to pick up those personnel costs. The next one is salary increases. That's for the total of everybody in the school system. Teachers, aides, classified, custodians, secretaries, and everybody. That's the total increase. The next one in employee benefits. The first blush from Cigna was a 10.9% increase. I met with Cigna and I told them that's not viable for anything. We're looking for a zero increase. The state has just come out with their own policy that they can give to towns and boards and so forth. What I told Cigna is that we're looking to get a quote from them. Cigna is not one of the state providers. Blue Cross and Oxford are the only two providers. So they said, okay. So after the call, they called me back. They reduced that fee. They reduced our first blush again by $323,000. That's not included here. I said that's not enough. So we're still working with them. Hopefully by the 15th, they're coming back with another proposal. I told them we want zero. We'll see where it comes. So we're still working. We gave them the threat of we're going to the state plan. And they're not on the state plan. So if they don't do that, we can see what the price is. And there's a number of other towns and boards that have Cigna. Cigna did pick up a number of boards of ed last year and the year before. Yes.
If I just interrupt, if you were to negotiate a 0% increase with Cigna, what would that be in the dollar figure?
Roughly 2.2 million.
And if I could ask,
Yeah.
have you negotiated all with the state program, and do we know what the number is?
It just came out. I run a monthly meeting of business officials. I've been doing that since I retired 7 years ago. We had the fellow from Sterling Benefits there. He's on the commission. He brought us back the plan and so forth. Milliman is the actuary. We're sending all of our information for the last 3 years to Milliman. They're going to gyrate the rates and see what it looks like. The next one is workers' comp. The city and the Board of Ed is together. The plan with the city is that we're self-insured for the first $500,000 for each incident. That does cost the Board of Ed money because we don't know how many accidents and so forth. We do have a claim that was very high that the Board of Ed has to pay out of its budget. We're working with Kermer and with the city to see if we can reduce our cost plus reduce the $500,000 self-insurance. Special ed tutors, we're over in that budget area this year, so we have to include that money for next year. Naviance is a mandated student success plan that's required by the State Department of Education. That costs us $15,000. The next one is Yankee Gas and CLMP, a minor reduction. In 2009, the city hired a consultant. The city and the city signed a contract to reduce. In 2009, they signed a contract that started in October of 2011. That rate is $10.145. It's a high rate. The city and the board have met with the consultant and the fellow from CCM. We're not happy with that. The rates now are running, if you go out to bid, running between 8.8 and 7.8. So we're not happy with the 10.145 cents per kilowatt hour, and we're looking to do some, either extend or blend or do something with that rate. We're not happy. I'm not happy. It's too high. If you go on the CLMP website, the rates that you're paying are lower than the rates that we're paying. So we're not happy with that. The next one is the bus contract. This next year will be the 5th year, and that's the last year of the bus contract. It's a 2.5% increase. That's $143,000. Next one, special ed tuition. As you know, DCF, the courts can place children. We have to pay for that. We run between, depends upon, we picked up two more children last week. So we're running between about 36 to 38 children who are tuitioned out, whether by DCF or the courts or the Board of Education. So we're looking to increase that count by 208,000. Liability insurance, again, it's with the city and Kerma. We're still fighting those rates, and hopefully that'll be reduced. Diesel fuel, as you know, the Board of Ed pays for the first 225,000 gallons for diesel fuel for the buses. It looks like the increase next year because of what's happening will be for $35,000. Number 2 oil, there is a reduction in number 2 oil. We are going more and more to our schools to gas. Gas is cheaper than oil, so we're reducing our number 2 oil requirements because we're going to gas. As you know, the city has put in new boilers in a number of the schools. We're hooking up to gas and oil, so you can flip. And there's one other school, I forgot the name of it, that we can't hook up gas this year because it was too late and the ground is frozen. Freshman sports, it was eliminated last year. We're putting that back into the budget. Power School is the student management system. We have to, the yearly maintenance of that is $50,000. IEP Direct, we had a company, K-12 Education, that did it. They're out of business this year. The increase in the contract would be $21,700 to go to IEP Direct. IEP Direct probably does about 80% of all the school systems in the state. That's on their IEPs, their individual education program, and we have to go on a computer and do that at the meeting. So we used to use K-12 software, and now we have to go IEP Direct software. Sorry. Adult ed rental of property. We're looking to move into another area, another piece of property where we're going to rent, so we can have a program. If you want to just.
Sure, it's the formerly known as Equal Start, the Family Literacy Program, which is for our teen mothers that we run in Danbury, that's housed at Mill Ridge, knowing that that building will have to be taken over soon. We need to move our program, our children and the moms out of that facility to another facility. So we're locating one now to do that.
Next one is adult ed matching grant. Anytime when the Board of Ed puts more money into our budget, the state matches that. So we're putting an additional $15,000 to give us more money. The next one is Park and Rec. Last year was nothing in the budget. This is for, the city does our plowing and mowing. We've been in contact with the city, and maybe we can, we're maneuvering on this piece of money. That's okay. We're negotiating. Okay. Services for the blind. The grants from the Services of the Blind are going down and down and down, so to keep the program going, we're putting in $58,000 additional in our budget. So those are the maintenance items, which comes to 5.03%. Next one is enrollment increase in state mandates. We're looking in this budget to increase new staffing by 8 teachers, bilingual elementary teacher, a South Street teacher, Stately Ruff, 2 middle schools teachers, and 3 science teachers at the high school. I don't know if Dr. Glass wants to.
Yeah, the idea of cutting back, or at least holding status quo, goes contrary to what you're seeing here, but let me see if I can quickly unpack it. Bilingual, the law says as of October 1, the prior year, so last October, not this October, if we have 20 or more students who are identified as speakers of a language other than English, say 20 or more Spanish-speaking youngsters who are really testing very low, they have no English whatsoever, we're required by law to offer a program that's a bilingual program, so that one bilingual education teacher is needed because of that state law. South Street, we're up to 28, possibly 29 kids going into classes next year, maybe even over 30. So we have a placeholder. If we don't need it, we will use it. The same thing with Stately Ruff. We have a part of the bubble coming through. As Sal said, we've had 70, 71 kids coming into Moore Street this year. It was not predicted. Families just moved to that neighborhood, possibly from South Street. That's why that number dipped. So it's kind of a work in progress. But right now there's this bulge at Stately. We're predicting there may be a need for another teacher. Those are both very iffy. Middle school level, we have a STEM program, as you know. We have 100 students at grade 6 with 4 teachers, 100 students at grade 7 with 4 teachers, 50 students at grade 8 with 2 teachers. Next year, those 50 kids leave, another 100 come up, and that completes the vision of having 300 students in the STEM program. That means we have to put 2 more teachers in to be able to cover those additional 50 youngsters. Science really deals with labs. We're offering more lab courses. It may be unthinkable to have a class where it's a science chemistry class and you don't have a chemistry lab. But that was the case that we were having. So a decision was made that we would have labs for kids who weren't getting labs, and that precipitated the need for 3 additional science teachers at the high school. Thank you.
Transportation is, Dr. Sal gave a presentation to the board about sister schools and how we can move some of the children. If we do that, we have a placeholder in there for 2 additional buses. State data reports, Power School, the state is asking more and more information, and this is for a part-time person to do some of that technology. So enrollment and increase 705,000 or 0.61%. The next one on page 24 is the value add, which is the school improvement is the first one. Vice principal, 4 vice principals at a stipend that totals $8,000. Safe harbor. Right now we have children in Title I schools to increase their ability to read and write. We have this year Safe Harbor. We have 16 people in those schools. We want to continue that program next year. And then school improvement, $150,000. We're looking at a grant that the principals would have to fill out to send to the administration to see where they would use X amount of dollars if they needed a part-time person. Maybe Dr. Glass could.
Sure. Let me I want to go back. It looks like we're adding 4 vice principals, 4 assistant principals. We're not. If you think of Great Plains School, there are 300 students in that school, 1 principal, 1 secretary, 1 nurse, 1 language arts specialist, etc. If you think of Stanley Ruff, right down the street, probably a mile away, there are 477 students there, 1 principal, 1 nurse, 1 reading specialist, etc. We now have over 175 more kids in one building. The idea here is the principals are saying, we're dying, there's no way we can cover schools that are getting really large, almost 500 students, maybe even more if some of our plans come to fruition. So the idea here is I'm a full-time teacher, but I'm going to get a couple $1,000s a year as a stipend that will allow me to work before school, after school, during my lunch, on the weekends to do things like class lists, some of these routine reports that Ed was talking about that are mandated by the state. So we're not adding any administrators, just simply to take a few teachers and say, can you pitch in and help for a nominal fee? Safe Harbor interventionists, we have 4 schools. Moore Street was the first school identified in this part of Connecticut as, I hate to use the term, a family school. It was the first school in this part of Connecticut unidentified, and they maintained that traction, in part because we have 4 people working with the kids, giving them supplemental reading instruction. This is to keep that model going. Haystown, Ellsworth, and South Street are all identified schools under NCLB, and the idea is to replicate those 4 interventionists that we have at Moore Street in each of those 3 other schools. The last piece of school improvement that I talked about, we have 1 elementary school, very large Hispanic population. The parents will not come into school. Many of them have 2nd grade education themselves. They don't feel that school is a place where they're worthy of entering. They have tremendous respect in South America, Latin America for educators, so they simply won't come. So part of this would be roughly $14,000 a year for 1 school that would hire an outreach worker who's Latino or Latina, who would go into the homes and say, these are good people, they want to help your kids, please, come to school, let us work with you. It could also be for other schools that want to do the Safe Harbor intervention. It could be for schools who want to buy a larger elementary classroom library or a middle school math lab or a high school math lab to help kids who are struggling. So if there's anything that's slushy in here, and I hate to use that term with the city council, if there's anything slushy in here, it would be $150,000. We just feel that we have to do a differentiated approach. That cookie cutter, one size fits all, really doesn't work anymore with the 50% poverty rate, 39% mobility rate, and we're going in the wrong direction financially. This would be a small buffer to help us do some very strategic interventions.
The next one is to reinstitute the night custodian at Rogers Park Middle School. Next one is a additional .5 nurse that's needed. The next one is to reinstitute tech curriculum administrator. As Dr. Glass said, we had Sue Rice, who was working part-time, and we're building on that. We're still negotiating with the city that maybe we have somebody who looks at both ends, the city and the board, as a overview, and then this could be reduced by some amount, so we're still looking at that. By the way, just let you know that we meet with the finance and assistant finance director. We're meeting with them once a month to go through items where we can work together on, and it so far has worked out well. District-wide Power School Tech, again, we need some additional, small additional help to help us in Power School. Curriculum development, as Dr. Glass says, there was only $34,000 in it. Last year was cut. We're increasing it by $25,000. Staff development, again, was another item that was cut. We're putting in $100,000. Gifted and talented, this year is $9,050 in gifted and talented budget. We're increasing that to make it $25,000 total. The last one is textbooks. Again, as Dr. Glass showed you, that we've cut it. We're bringing back to 130, so it'll be $250,000 in the budget. The next page on 25 are some of the assumptions that we're still working on. The first one is employee benefits. If we're at 10.9, if we go to 6.5, how much we can do it again. They know that I'm on 0. The next one is renegotiate service contracts. Those service contracts include copiers, bus, Medicaid. We're looking at consortium buying of items. So those are that service contracts. The next one is the blend and extend. Again, that was the contract that the city signed in 09 at 10.145 that started in October. We're trying to renegotiate that in a blend and extend contract. Blend and extend means you take the 4 years, because they signed a 4-year contract, and add 2 or 3 years onto it and blend those two rates. Park and Rec, again, we've been with city.